Greetings, class. This is a video covering the demonstration problem number 2 in Chapter 4, Process Costing. And in this video, we're going to go through the steps that we need to calculate the equivalent units and the cost per equivalent unit. Okay, so the description here gives us Oscar Corporation using the weighted average method in its process costing system. It produces prefab tiles in a series of steps carried out in production departments. All the material that is used in the first production department is added at the beginning of the processing in that department. The data for March for the first production department follow. They have beginning work in process, ending work in process in total, how much completion they have for materials and conversion, and then they list all the cost out here. So we have materials cost, beginning work in process, conversion cost, beginning work in process, units started, materials added, and so on. So the first step that we need to do, according to the requirements, is to calculate the department's equivalent units. Okay, so for number 1, equivalent units is what we're after. So we're going to start by, over here, creating 2 columns, one for materials. I'm going to abbreviate it, materials, and the other one for conversion. I'm also going to abbreviate that. So we're going to begin by saying, okay, the calculation for equivalent units is going to be units completed and transferred plus ending work in process. So if we're going to use units completed and transferred, we start with units completed and transferred. And for materials and conversion, it's going to be the same number. For this, it's going to be this $189,000 number right here. So for materials, it's 189. And for conversion, it's 189,000 units. Ending work in process for this department is right here. We have 15,000 units in ending work in process, but we need to factor them by the percentage complete. So for materials, it's 100%, so we take 15,000 times 100% for materials, 15,000 units. And then over here, conversion is 60%, so we take 15,000 times 60%. Okay, when we do that math, we're going to get 9,000 units over here. So 15,000 times 60% is 9,000 for conversion. 100% is 15,000 for materials. So we have equivalent units for materials of 204,000. And we have equivalent units for conversion of 198,000. Okay. All right. That's number 1. So we have 204,000 units for materials, 198 for conversion. Number 2 says calculate the production department's cost per equivalent unit. Now, the cost that we're going to use in this calculation is going to be a little bit confusing because we're not going to do it exactly the same way we do the units. We're going to take beginning work in process cost plus cost added. Now this is because when we do the units up here, because we're focusing on units completed and transferred, we are assuming that that includes the beginning work in process in those units, so that we're basically averaging those with those previous units. Ending work in process is what we look at. So this is not a mismatch. We are including beginning work in process cost plus cost added in the department. We're going to do that for materials, and we're going to do it for conversion as well. So beginning work in process cost is going to be $6,000 for materials. The conversion cost on March 1st is going to be $10,900. All right, so we're taking this one from right here, this one from right here. So that's beginning work in process cost for conversion and for materials. Then we want to look at how many we added, how much cost we added for materials and conversion. So we have cost added materials. This is number 3. And that's going to be right here, 45,000. So we have 45,000 or a total cost of 51,000. So we have total cost 51,000. For conversion costs, we're adding 395,000 here, so we bring it over 395,000, and that's number 4 right here, referencing back to this number. So when we add those two together, we get 405,900. All right. In order to calculate the cost per equivalent unit, we're coming back up here. We're going to take the equivalent units. We're going to divide the cost by those equivalent units. So we're going to bring those down here now. So we have equivalent units. For materials, it's 204,000. For conversion, it's 198,000. So after dividing these, you get the cost per equivalent unit for materials of 25 cents per unit. For the conversion cost, you get $2.05 cost per unit. All right. Okay. So that is number 2. Number 3 says, compute the first production's cost of ending work in process inventory for materials, conversion, and in total for March. So for that's number 2 right here. Number 1 was up here. I didn't put the number by it, so that's what I'm doing now. Not to confuse you with these. Probably should have used letters for those. Anyway, let's go down to number 3, which is going to ask us to apply these costs to ending work in process. So in order to do that, we have to go back and figure out, okay, what was ending work in process? What were the equivalent units? So we're going to have, again, materials and conversion. We start with equivalent units and ending work in process. All right. So we have for materials 15,000 units. For conversion, we have 9,000. This is just what was in ending work in process. So that's basically these numbers right here. We're going to take those numbers times the cost per equivalent unit for each. So we're going to have times the cost per equivalent unit of 0.25, which gives us 3,750. And over here it's $2.05, and that gives us 18,450 and a total of 22,200. Okay, so that's the cost and ending work in process. Then they want us to calculate the cost for the items that were transferred out. So for number 4, we're going to calculate the cost for items transferred out. So we have units transferred, well, completed. I'll just say completed, it's easier. And transferred. We have materials, 189,000 units. Conversion, also 189,000 units. We take the cost per equivalent unit, which is 25 cents here, and $2.05 here. Okay. The cost then for materials will be $47,250, and the conversion cost 205 times 189,000 is going to be 387,450. Total cost will be 434,700. Okay, that's the requirements in this problem. Now I want to do something else here that is also important. In this chapter, we deal with reconciliation reports. And we start with costs to be accounted for. We're basically demonstrating that we've considered all the costs that we have. So the costs we're going to account for are, start with, beginning work in process. All right? So when we come back over here, we look at beginning work in process costs. And so we have materials and we have conversion in beginning work in process. So we're going to put those down here. Materials and conversion. So we have $6,000 here. And we have $10,900 here. Okay. All right. So that's beginning work in process. We have a total then of 16,900. And then we're going to have costs added. We're going to have materials cost added of 45,000. And conversion cost added of $395. Okay. When we add these two together, we get 440,000. Our total, let me make an adjustment here real quick, just to get this out of the way. You already know what number 4 is anyway. Anyway, the total here of cost to be accounted for is 456,900. Okay. Next, we're going to do costs accounted for. And then we have ending work in process. For materials and conversion, we have 3,750 and 18,450. This comes from number 3 that we did. We have a total then of 22,200. Then we're going to have units completed. So completed, the cost of units completed, which we calculated to be 47,250 and 387,450. Okay. Those two added together are 434,700. I'm getting a little close to these previous things, so I'm just going to knock this out of here. You've already seen that. So the total then that we have, so this would be total costs to account for. And this is total costs accounted for. So the total will be 456,900, and we see that these two are reconciled. So that's what they mean by a reconciliation report. Now the focus for this chapter for me is on being able to actually calculate these equivalent units and the cost per equivalent unit. Anyway, I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and let me know. Take care and have a great day.